So we are going to talk about New Zealand and the Maori protests and their demands, and also we're going to say a bit whether we think they're justified or not. It looks like they are protesting against a bill that would grant equal civil rights to everyone. So,
from what Carl has told me, it was a bill proposed by the Libertarian Party in New Zealand.
We will talk about it, but before we do so, if you want to support us, you can subscribe on our website with as little as £5 a month and gain access to all our premium content and watch videos such as the close to 3 hour marathon discussion of Marcus Aurelius' Stoicism we did with Bo. Remember, this was one of the best ones. It was just absolutely. So definitely check it out. Right, so for those of you for whom geography is not particularly the strongest card, New Zealand is to the southeast of Australia. It has a population of at least 5 million people. Estimations say it's 5 to 5.3 million people, and the Maori are an indigenous population that moved there in the 1300s, and they are around 20% of the population. So that would make them about 1 million.
I've just got to get this out of the way. Nice that they're indigenous, and we've been on this island for far, 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 far longer than that, and we're not somehow. It's always fun how definitions work that way.
It's from, I think, the 1300s.
Were there any people there before the Maori arrived?
Depends who you ask. Some people say that there was no one there. Other people say that there were some who were sort of exterminated. Oh. Right. So let us have some footage from the protests and try to understand what they are all about. Like the Uruk-hai from the hell.
That guy's white. Yeah. What's he doing?
Many of them.
Many. Oh no, they're not like Aussie Aboriginals, are they? Where they go like, oh, my great grandfather slept with an Aboriginal once, so now I'm Aboriginal. It's not like that, right. Is it?
So Elizabeth Warren levels of Aboriginal.
Yeah.
So I'll try to be a bit objective and portray both sides of the issue, because a lot of people are opinionated, and I have heard lots of discussions about it. They have been really good, especially here in the office. Harry, you're one of the participants.
Hey, Carl has a perspective on this that I'm going to try and steal, man, right now. He made a video on this on his Akad Daily channel, and he's been speaking about it in the office. Is essentially
they're against liberalism, so they're good.
They're against liberalism because we went there, colonized them, set up a series of treaties with them that puts them and us a particular place in New Zealand society. They don't want there to be kind of a disbanding of those original treaties going against them by having a full equality of all the races. He also says that they hate mass immigration onto New Zealand, and they hate that Asians are coming on and stealing their jobs and displacing them. So he's putting it from kind of like a trad imperialist perspective.
Well,
I've not looked into it, so I don't know how true that is, but that's Carl's perspective after looking into it.
Well, I mean, nothing that I've seen suggests that they were fans of imperialism. Let me put it this way. Right, so we have here 42,000 march on New Zealand's parliament in support of Maori rights, and it's one of the biggest protests. Now, it's not the first protests about this. There have been basically endless ones. So it's one of those things in the history of contemporary New Zealand, or at least in the history of the last 2 centuries, that is a constant source of struggle between the Maori and the New Zealanders.
The Kiwis.
The Kiwis. Right, so we have a viral video that I want to show to Harry, and I want to keep showing it to Harry. And everyone has watched this video about the parliament, and we should start with this and try to actually ask what happened. It's,
flash mob.
Our narration isn't going to be linear. We're going to start with the end, and then we're going to ask what happened. So, Harry, I want your full attention.
They're infected by the spirit.
Harry, I don't want just your curiosity. I want your attention.
All right, you've got it.
The House is suspended.
This is one of my favorite clips from Parliament.
So cringe.
You've missed that there's another version of it where it cuts to the man who's sitting at Parliament and he's just there. Oh, because I have seen multiple videos of this particular Maori woman in this Parliament not doing this exact thing, but basically breaking randomly into Maori war songs. So it's a pretty common thing that seems to happen there whenever they're unhappy with a
It's
bill.
her jam.
Yeah, and as far as I'm concerned, it has no place in a Parliament.
No, it's complete cringe. Doing the hacker in a pantsuit.
When you
Right,
put it like that,
like-
it seems somewhat anachronistic, doesn't it?
The thing is, right?
Also, should women be doing it in the first place?
Well, that was one of the things I was going to say. Is that right? If you do it nowadays, okay, you're LARPing. You must surely be LARPing. You're not actually of the Maori warrior class. You're just LARPing as that. Certainly, if you're a woman in a pantsuit, mimicking or LARPing as sort of a 19th
Right.
century Maori warrior, it's laughable, or
Right.
it's just so cringe. It's like,
Right.
you're
so-
not a Maori warrior. You're not it's a war dance. You're
Also,
some
don't
young
they play
woman in a
before
pantsuit.
before rugby matches stuff? Anyway, right. So let us ask what happened. So the New Zealand's parliament right now has 123 seats. The government is a coalition of parties. We have the National Party, the ACT Party, which is a libertarian party, and it's basically started it all, and the New Zealand First Party, and then we have the official opposition with Labour. We have the Green and the Maori party that has only 6 seats.
So
Wasn't Labour led by Jacinda Ardern, your friend?
wherever you got that from.
I remember one of your...
But essentially, they've got a somewhat right-wing majority at the moment,
Yeah.
is what's being shown here.
Right, so it started with this man, David Seymour, who is the leader of ACT, that is the Libertarian Party, that is a minor coalition partner. And he had a tweet like that who said, if you believe you have special rights because of your ethnicity, you're going to be disappointed with a treaty principles bill. When you're used to special rights, equality feels like oppression. That's his angle into the conversation. Right, so they what?
The whole thing is just so absurd to me.
Well, from what I've
You
seen...
know, like the idea of any sort of war face or war cry is to be intimidating as possible, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole thing, is to be more aggressive and violent and intimidating, all those things.
Yeah.
It plays out in the Maori thing with doing just the wide-eyed,
Yeah,
like
from what I've-
sticking your tongue out and stuff. It's like, it's not scary, dude.
This is actually
not scary.
He
From what
looks
I've
like
seen-
he's about to enter a WWE match.
He does a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. You also have the person
And,
behind with the tongue.
Who's literally just a white guy by the looks of it. But yeah, from what I've seen, the faces are supposed to be part of it, because I've seen everybody posting this saying, God, she's pulling the cringe faces again, and loads of people underneath go, no, actually, it's awesome, you're supposed to do the faces. And I'm like, you know, I'm sure that if you just got there when we started to colonize those islands and you saw an enormous war band of these guys with these big chants going on, that could be intimidating, but no, not.
What, whilst you're ramming the powder and bullet down your musket.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're
Oh, yeah, that's very terrifying. Yeah. Pans are right. Yeah, really terrifying, guys. Yeah. No.
So
carry on, take
Yes.
your time.
Flint's in the right place. Go ahead. You go ahead, guys.
this bill has 3 articles, 3 principles. It's one of the shortest bills you can see. That they don't sound particularly controversial at least on a first reading. But obviously we need to bear in context the historical setting of the island. It says the New Zealand government has the right to govern all New Zealanders. I mean, that's what technically governments are supposed to be doing when they're legitimate. We need to put that caveat. The New Zealand government will honor all New Zealanders in the chieftainship of their land and all their property, and all New Zealanders are equal under the law with the same rights and duties. So the third one is essentially what they are protesting against. And why they say this? Because they think that at the end, from what I gather, they say that there has been a treaty, which is the founding treaty of New Zealand. They call it the Treaty of Waitangi, that was signed in 1840 between local Maori chiefs and the British Crown. And there are all sorts of problems with that treaty. And what they think is that this bill is trying to redefine the foundational treaties of New Zealand. Right, so we have to say some things about the treaty because it's actually pretty interesting. They say that the treaty was a bit rushed. So it was first signed on the 6th of February 1840. It was an agreement between the British Crown and 540 Maori chiefs. In the beginning, it was signed by, I think, close to 40, but then as the year progressed, there were more chiefs into it. But it's also said that at some point, the British unilaterally said that it's going to apply to everyone, and suddenly it applied to a lot of chiefs that didn't sign up for it. And there are also some other issues here, because a lot of people who are supporting the Maori side say that there are two languages in which this treaty has been signed. It was basically very rushed because all the debate about it took 3 days. It was only a Lieutenant Governor, William Hobson, who wrote it and debated with the Maori chiefs. And there was sort of no oversight or involvement by other British officials. And there are two main issues with it. Number one, they say that in the two documents, there are different notions involved. So they say that in the English document, the document written in the English language, it says that it is the sovereignty of the island that is going to be given to the British. And they say that in the Maori version of the treaty, it says that it's the government, not the sovereignty. And a lot of people say that there has been essentially a deception here, that the British served the Maori the onion of deception. And also the Maori didn't have a notion of sovereignty, because if you think about it, the notion of sovereignty is a bit complex, and you need it comes fairly late in Western political philosophy. It's much less intuitive than the concept of government. So they are saying things like that, and they say that essentially this treaty has led to this significant deterioration of Maori presence in the island. So that's what they're saying. Now here's the Treaty of Waitangi bill that Seymour is putting forward. Here we have the 3 articles. As said, it's pretty simple. It's Principle 3. Everyone is equal before the law. Everyone is entitled without discrimination to the equal protection and equal benefit of the law and the equal enjoyment of the same fundamental rights. Now, to my mind, this seems like basically obvious, especially when we're talking about civil rights. It seems to me to be intuitive. I can understand the argument when we're talking about, America for the Americans, Europe for Europeans, England for the English, Scotland for the Scottish. I can understand the argument for extra political rights for the indigenous, but it seems to me that there isn't any particular problem with granting civil rights to others. So that's maybe only me. So I'll try to understand what they are saying, and
what's their angle then? What do they argue?
Well, there are
just Maori supremacy.
There are several angles into it. I'm not going to say just anything about I found, but I found this sort of, it seems like left-leaning argument that talks a bit about it. And they say the controversy over one of the nation's founding documents touches a raw nerve. The agreement has 2 versions, one in English and the other in Maori, leaving the 2 sides with differing interpretations about what it means in practice for indigenous rights. And they are saying essentially underneath that a Guardian investigation in July revealed the effect of legislative and policy changes in 6 key areas, ranging from health, treaty and language, justice, social and housing, and to environment and education that experts say will adversely impact Maori and may deepen existing inequalities. And they continue. The administration also plans to win back world-leading anti-smoking laws that would have made it illegal for anyone born after 2008 to buy cigarettes. A decision experts say will affect the community more because of higher smoking rates than other New Zealanders. And they say Maori make up roughly 20% of New Zealand's 5 million people, but are worse off in comparison to fellow citizens. They're jailed in much higher numbers, accounting for more than half of the people in prison, and are disproportionately represented in crime and poverty statistics. The community also fares badly when it comes to life expectancy rates, with Maori males at the bottom of the table. So to my mind, when I read this, which seems to me to be a left-leaning document, it seems to me that they have a particular paternalistic treatment, or at least that's what it seems to me to be argued in that article. I may be completely wrong.
I have seen a report saying that, I don't know if it's mentioned here, that they get to skip the queue for hospital waiting lists and such.
Okay, I've heard things like that before. So it seems to me that on the one hand, it looks like the protest, if that's the case, it looks like a protest for sovereignty and empowerment, but on the other, it also looks like a call for having extra treatment in the apparatus of New Zealand.
And again, I'm only privy to what you have presented here. Yeah. I would not be surprised if it essentially boiled down to Gibbs, despite what Carl is suggesting.
Well, I don't know. It seems to me that we need to be a bit careful here. Also, I want to be meticulous and I want to be fair. The documents I found seem to me to be very left-leaning, and they are essentially, you could say, sort of woke. It could be the case, though, that leftists are trying to appropriate the Maori movement, and there are different arguments for their cause or something. But one thing to bear in mind, it's one thing to say that we're talking about an island that has 100% or the overwhelming majority of the population as being Maori, and quite another to say that it's 18 to 20%.
If you don't mind me asking,
and also just let me saying, it's not like the bill says the Maori should have a worse treatment and others should have preferential. It says everyone should have equal civil rights.
Okay. Outside of the haka dances that they have performed, have there been any direct statements that we can quote from the Maoris and those representing the Maoris on why exactly they're going against this bill?
It's essentially they are saying that it is against their sovereignty and it's for their national. It's their national. Say they have been. It's in their. It's an issue of addressing historical inequalities. Let me say. So they could argue that all these inequalities right now, or what we would say preferential treatment, is a sort of addressing the historical inequalities that have proceeded from the Waitangi treaty and how it has been handled.
Okay.
One question I've got is that you mentioned there that the Maori were about 20% of the population, but more than half of the prison population.
Yeah.
Is that due to the institutional racism of New Zealand's judicial system, or is it because they're more criminal as a collective? As a people, I
mean, whenever I hear that argument, it's always the second for me, the latter, because
obviously it is.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't be committing all of those crimes if it weren't for the original treaty, I assume.
And right.
I'll take the Guardian line here.
Right, okay, and I think we should read some Rumble comments, but I want to put this to Harry again.
Are you really just making me watch it again?
I'm going to actually gag on cringe. I'm going to actually...
Can we replay it?
No, Jack, right, go into...
Jack.
Go into...
Jack. Right. Right, okay. Should we...
She's a real warrior.
Yeah.
Jack, I need you to...
It's not intimidating when someone's like 5'5" and weighs 90 pounds.
Shows resolution.
It's got like tiny shoulders and skinny little arms, and they're acting like they're gonna butcher you in some way.
Oh,
It's not scary. It's not
Jack,
scary.
Jack, find the meme that I sent yesterday of this, except with the
Right.
more appropriate music, and see if we can get that up on stream. If you just go into one of the channels and go up, it will be. Oh wait, here we go.
Baby, my heart's on fire.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime girl. Look, it's like a flash mob because the camera keeps cutting to more people joining in.
It's like a Bollywood movie where, you know, the bride is about to is singing, and suddenly 2 minutes afterwards the whole village
The
is
entire
singing.
room joins in. Yes. So I just wanted all of you folks at home to see that because it was glorious.
Hi folks, thanks for watching. We really appreciate the fact that we are kept sustained by the fact that you guys sign up to lotuseats.com for £5 a month to help us actually allowed to exist. Because of course we're demonetized here. So if you'd like to support us, go over to lotuseats.com and watch the latest episode in the incredibly deep dive that we are doing on Stanley Kubrick. This is episode 3, and it's not the end, as I understand. Also, go over to X, formerly Twitter, and follow us at lotuseaters_com.